Hi, everybody. I think we're going to have people log in still, and then we'll get started in just a bit. All right, I think we have everybody. I'm Alex Gittens, and I am chair of the NYS board, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is the Europe tour that NYS makes available to concert and principal musicians. And we are looking to go in June of 2022. And this has been continued from June of 2021 and then June of 2020. So we are really super excited about this. I was just telling our speakers today that I am super excited to see something other than my backyard. And so I am very much looking forward to our trip to Europe. I had my oldest daughter has gone through 2 tours with Encore. We went to Europe in 2016. We saw Prague and Austria, and that was just phenomenal. And then 2018, we went to, I think I have those years right. We went to Spain and Portugal, and that was just incredible. And I can speak a little bit about the shadow tour. I was able to go on with the parents tour, basically, and we were in separate hotels and separate buses and did other activities while the kids were working hard and practicing. The adults were able to go and tour independently or together in groups and go to wineries and wonderful restaurants. And we took a lovely bike tour in Spain, while another group took a tour of cathedrals. It's just a really amazing way to share that adventure with your musicians. So I highly recommend the Shadow Tour. And then I can't speak highly enough of the tour itself for our musicians. It's just such a reward for their efforts. And again, going on the Shadow Tour is a great way to celebrate that reward with them, to be able to see their performances in these amazing halls and concert venues. It's just incredible. But enough about my excitement. What you really want to hear is from Jonathan, and we're excited to introduce as well Sabrina, who has coordinated these trips for us and can answer all of the questions from Encore as to how the trip works, and answer your questions about COVID and traveling these days. And so I will hand over the mic first, I guess, to Jonathan. Is that correct? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. And actually, I'm going to leave most of the work tonight to Sabrina, who is going to do an amazing presentation for all of you about this tour. What I will say first and foremost about this experience is, and this is really, it's not hyperbole, it's not exaggeration. This is the experience that your kids are going to remember for the rest of their lives. And I can say that because I went on a tour myself when I was a member of the Chicago Youth Symphony as a pianist, and it's an experience that I continue to remember for the rest of my life. And there are a number of reasons for why the experience is so memorable, so powerful. And it has to be said, by the way, right off the bat, that the tours that are run by Encore, the organization that Sabrina represents, that you're going to hear from tonight, are just impeccably run. Sarah, I can't remember exactly how many tours I've done now with Encore and the organization, how we've done, but every single one has just gone off without a hitch and just been beautifully organized. And the kids on each one of these tours have just had the best experiences. And the experiences that they've had that have been so remarkable have been both incredible musical experiences, and social experiences and cultural experiences. So musically, we pick repertoire specifically based on who is coming. I tailor it to the students who are on the tour, and then we get to know it intimately because they have the experience of playing it, in 3 different concerts. So by the end of it, they have never played anything so well in their lives. And the venues that Encore provides are always beautiful and exciting, and with really excited crowds, and and crowds that they're not used to playing for, which is really exciting. And then, you have these friendships that develop over these tours that they'll have for the rest of their lives often. The social experience of enjoying another culture together with people who maybe they don't know so well, from different sections of the orchestra. It not only do they cultivate friendships that last, but they cultivate friendships that they might not otherwise have from hanging out with their own section normally when they rehearse. And then culturally, I mean, there's no place better than Italy for a cultural experience. It goes without saying. I don't know about the rest of you, but as Alex was saying, I have been dying to get out of the country and back to a place like Italy. I personally, I had a grant from college and spent 3 months in Siena, which is another one of the best experiences of my life. So my Italian is così così. And I'm just super eager to get back amongst all the art, the sights, the people, the food. There's no better celebratory return for us than to go to Italy under the auspices of Encore. So that's actually all I have to say, is just that it's amazing, and you should go, and you should tell everybody else to go with us. So I'm now going to hand it over to Sabrina, who has a presentation for us about more of the details of the tour.
Great, thank you so much, Jonathan. And hello, everyone, good evening. Again, my name is Sabrina, and I have had the pleasure and honor to work with NYS since 2010 now, which doesn't feel long at all, although it's been quite a few years working together. So it's been a wonderful experience from our perspective as well, of course. And so I wanted to just kind of do a brief overview of the itinerary. I know that Sarah sent out the recording of our meeting that we had last year, where Espen, who was one of our star tour managers, was with us, and he kind of went through the day by day of every day and all the things that you'd be seeing on the itinerary. So I highly encourage everyone to watch that to get all the details of this wonderful trip. And so I will kind of just give a brief overview of what you'll be doing and where you'll be going. And then we thought that, what is really on kind of everyone's minds these days and for the last 18 months is traveling with under the current conditions. So with the pandemic and what that entails, and what we kind of foresee for the future in terms of travel next summer, and a lot of details about our insurance plans, registration, all kind of the information that is important that you have and that you are comfortable with moving forward. And then, of course, I'll be super happy to answer all questions at the end. So thank you again for having me. And I have a bit of a presentation to show, so let me just share my screen, and we will get that up and running. Okay. Let me just start this. All right, thanks for your patience, everyone. Okay, perfect. Great, so hopefully you see the beautiful Colosseum in Rome on your screens now. Let's, as Alex was saying, dream a little bit about going somewhere new. I'm also dreaming about traveling again. I cannot wait to get over to Europe again. It's been a long time, and I think the prospect of going again, and that it is going to be possible, is really exciting. So the tour dates are June 25th through July 3rd of next summer. And again, just a brief overview. It is going to be, as you can see, a 9-day tour. And you'll be spending, it'll be 2 hotel stays, which is really nice because you'll really get to know the 2 areas of Italy that you'll be traveling to. So the first stop will be the Tuscany area. So Tuscany, Florence, Montecatini. You'll spend the first nights in that beautiful region that is so special. And it's a really great way to start the itinerary because it's not a big bustling city like Rome, where you'll be for the last part of the trip. So you can kind of ease into the Italian, dolce vita and enjoy the food and the beautiful Italian Tuscan countryside. It is a gorgeous place to visit. So you'll have the first part of the itinerary in Tuscany. You'll see Florence, you'll see some of the Tuscan countryside. It's a great area, one of my favorites in all of Italy. And then you'll move on to Rome for the second part of the trip, where you will be, and again, Rome is one of those cities that just stays with you once you've been there, and there's so much to see in terms of just, the Roman architecture and the fact that it's a really metropolitan and modern city. It's the capital of Italy, of course, and there you could spend 2 months in Rome and not see everything. It's just got so much to offer. So I think a really lovely balance in terms of starting off in a smaller place, ending off in the amazing city of Rome and feeling that life and energy. And then, of course, one of the main reasons for the trip, the concerts. So you'll be performing 3 concerts during this trip in 3 beautiful venues. One of them, which we are, we've been holding now, I think this is the 3rd time in a row, 3rd date, is the beautiful Terme Tituccio. This is a beautiful spa town in Montecatini, which has an incredible outdoor venue. And in the summer, Italians love to go to concerts outdoors. So that'll be a really special venue. And then you'll be performing in probably a church in Rome to get a different type of venue and feel, acoustic. And then another concert in the Tuscany area in Orvieto, which will be a beautiful 19th century horseshoe theater type venue, so you'll have 3 very different types of venues, which is amazing, different acoustic, all with enthusiastic audiences, because I think everyone, myself included, really misses listening to live music, and the audiences should be just fantastic as always. So a very exciting itinerary. I wanted to kind of dive into some of the details as to what we're kind of prospecting for next year in terms of travel. So I first wanted to start and just make sure that everyone knows that you are very, very well supported during the trip. We have such a great international team behind the scenes working so hard to make sure that every trip that we run goes off without a hitch, goes off super smoothly. And we actually have our main Italian office right in Rome. So having that local presence makes a huge difference. I actually just spoke with the head of that office in Rome last week, just to get his perspective on things, just everyday life in Italy right now. What does that mean? How are things going? Which I'll share with you in a few slides as well. I think that's important just to have that perspective, because we hear so much in the news, but it's really good to get someone's perspective who's actually living it. So that is a great resource for us. It also just gives everyone peace of mind. We are very, very safety conscious. So if there was ever a situation where there was a country that wasn't safe to go to, and even if it happens at the last minute, we would never send a group anywhere that wasn't safe. So I just want everyone to know that it's a key factor in all of our tours, and that you're very well supported behind the scenes. So we have kind of to that point, I wanted to just dive in a little bit more about what that exactly does that mean. So we have really wonderful travel protection plans, which I will go over the details in a few slides. And I think this year especially, everyone is very conscious of what their travel protection entails in the case of cancellation. So I want to make sure that you all know exactly what we can offer and what is out there for you. We actually developed this year a brand new suite of protection plans that are way better than what we had before the pandemic. So that was a positive change due to the pandemic. So now we've got really, really great protection plans that basically, the top level offers a full refund in cash all the way up until 4 days before departure. And I will go over more details, but just to give you a sense of, you can really have some peace of mind. Our peace of mind program is where if a group decides, you know what, we just don't feel comfortable traveling for whatever reason, up until 65 days prior to departure, so just about 2 months prior to departure, the group leader can tell us, we don't feel comfortable traveling due to XYZ reasons. And you have the option to postpone the trip to a different date, or go to a different destination. So we just want everyone to know that we want to work with you. We have this policy in place because it's important to us to make sure that everyone feels comfortable in their travel. We have general liability insurance up to $15 million. So we have really great coverage on that front as well. One thing that is new this year with our new protection plan suite is quarantine protection, which we never had to think about before. So with our new protection plans, everyone, even those who just have the basic protection plan, which is included in the tour cost, has $150 per day of quarantine protection. That basically means if you, got COVID while you were on the trip, and you needed to quarantine, you would have $150 per day that would cover hotel costs, meals, and so that you could carry out your quarantine and not worry about the escalating cost. There is a cap on that up to $1,500, so it's about a 10-day stay. But so that's what insurance covers, but ACIS always does the right thing, and we will work with you. We will make sure that there's a staff member who's going to be helping to communicate if someone needs to see a doctor or any other kind of complications that could come with that. As I mentioned, we have an office in Rome, and we've got staff right there to help with any arrangements that need to be made. But do know that you do have that quarantine protection, which is great. Of course, we have all kinds of safety precautions now on tour. So, we follow each country's guidelines in terms of their mask rules and their, all of the different kind of COVID-related rules now. But we also, we'll have masks on the bus. We'll have hand sanitizer. We'll make sure that everything that we are following all the guidelines of that specific country. And then we have someone on call all the time, both here in Boston, where our headquarters are, and in the country where we have a trip traveling. So in this case, Italy. So we have basically no matter what time of day or night, there's someone you can call to get any communication across. So that could be it on the stateside or in Europe. So it's just good to know that. I thought it would be interesting to just share a little bit with you about my conversation with my colleague Sergio last week. He is right in Rome. He has had a really good perspective that gave me some great info that I felt like I didn't really have just by reading the news. So I wanted to kind of share that with you. He basically said that life is really getting back to normal in many, many ways. As you probably know, Italy got hit really hard at the beginning of the pandemic. And because of that, the population has been really enthusiastic overall, of course, not everyone, but really enthusiastic in general about the vaccine. So therefore, as you can see, 73% of the population is now vaccinated, which is incredible. And it's ongoing. So he is really hopeful that by next year, that rate will even be much higher. So he said that because of that, of course, the Delta surge has not hit them nearly as hard as it has hit the US, unfortunately. So things in Italy are going really well, he said, in terms of back to kind of everyday life. It is true that masks must be worn in public places right now. So even when you go into a store or a museum or anything like that, you do need to wear masks. And that doesn't seem to be too much of an issue for the general public in Italy. So that is really, he said, it's really making a big difference. People are just kind of wanting to get, I think we all feel the same, wanting to get back to life and to experiences, and therefore, that is really happening in Italy, and he feels very confident that it's going to just continue in the right direction from here on out. So that was really encouraging to hear. He said, church services are ongoing with choirs. He said performances are starting again, even though in a lot of the venues, they are still requiring people in different parties 6 feet apart. So if you're with a family, of course, that family can sit together, but then the next person next to you would be 6 chairs away. So they are still taking things seriously, but are able to kind of get back to a more normalized life, which is really great. So he felt really good that we're about things where things are now, and even more hopeful, especially for next summer, for example. So I just wanted to talk, because I know this is, got to be on the top of everyone's mind, what travel protocols and what travel is going to be looking like in summer 2022. Of course, unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know exactly what will be, kind of what things will be like in summer 2022. But from all perspectives that we're kind of, we follow things very closely, as you can imagine, and speaking with colleagues overseas, and this is kind of what we're thinking is going to be the situation. So again, this is kind of as of right now. Things change constantly, but I wanted to kind of give you a perspective as of where things are now and where we think things will be next summer. So vaccine information. This is the big one. It's technically not required for US citizens to be vaccinated to travel to Italy at the moment. However, I just want to make this really clear because it's super important. If you are not vaccinated, you cannot go into any shops, museums, monuments, restaurants, most public places, venues, for example, because they're so strict in Italy with those requirements. So as you can see, if you're going to go on a trip like this, a wonderful experience where you want to take in all the culture and all of the experiences and really make the most of it, it would be very, very difficult to do that if you were not vaccinated. The other key thing to know right now, and I think this will probably change, but who knows? But right now, if you go to Italy and you are not vaccinated, you do need to quarantine for 5 days. So as you can see, the trip is 9 days. So if you needed to quarantine for those first 5 days and then take a negative COVID test, get the results, the trip would be more than half over. So while technically they're not requiring it right now, and that could change, they could absolutely change that rule where Italy would require a vaccine. But right now, it's still very difficult to travel as you'd want to, and really to take advantage of a trip like this. So I just want to make sure that that's very clear, because it's a very important part of the tour. Right now, you do need to get tested 72 hours prior to your flight to Italy and present that negative COVID test at the airport. And then again, before flying back to the US, again, 72 hours prior to that return flight. And that COVID test in Italy that you'd need to get done, we will coordinate. We will actually have a doctor and nurse team come to the hotel, just test everyone and get the results and all the information that you need in order to return home. So the test going over, so the test that you need to present at JFK when you fly to Italy, you would need to do that. But the test coming back when you're all in Italy together, the group, we will take care of coordinating that. So that is something that is required right now, and we don't know. I mean, perhaps it will get lifted. That requirement will get lifted by next summer. We just don't know. So we're following that very carefully. And then, as I mentioned before, masks are pretty prevalent in Italy, required in most public places. So I did want to just go over briefly the inclusions, what's included in this wonderful tour, and the cost. So this tour is very, very inclusive. It's basically, you don't need to worry about too much else, except for lunches and any souvenir shopping, things like that. But it's very inclusive. So all of the excursions, the activities, anything that's listed on the itinerary is absolutely included. And of course, the 3 concerts, which are very well promoted to make sure there's an audience there, the organization, so that you show up, you get to the venue and everything's ready to go. You can rehearse, get that sound check in, make sure you feel comfortable with the acoustics in the venue. All of that is very well coordinated with our team. The service of the Encore tour manager, who is going to be with you from the moment you arrive at the airport, and there'll be one for the orchestra trip and one for the shadow tour. And that person, well, Espen, if you watch the presentation from last year, Espen has been a tour manager with NYS multiple times, and he just loves working with you. So we've already put the request in for him. He's an excellent tour manager. You really get to know them so well, just working together every day. And most of our tour managers are super sad to say goodbye to the groups, and vice versa. And it's just, they really are passionate about what they do. They're consummate professionals. They have their incredible knowledge of the destination, and they're great problem solvers. So they are just really good at kind of coordinating and making sure everything goes really smoothly. So that's our tour managers are a really strong part of what we offer. The accommodation will be centrally located 3- and 4-star hotels, and for the shadow tour, that will be just 4-star hotels. I just wanted to make that distinction. And then, of course, the round trip flights, the touring coach and driver, all of the tips, all of the gratuities for the tour manager and the driver are included in the cost, so you don't have to worry about additional tipping. And then, of course, we have our health coverage and our liability coverage overseas while you're traveling. So it's a very inclusive trip. It's really just lunches on a daily basis that you need to bring a little bit extra money for. And that can be quite inexpensive, depending on if you want to just, a lot of Italian street food is really good. So the paninis, and especially the gelato is my favorite. Just a suggestion. So there's lots of great options, and the tour manager will always help. Help you if you want to find something specific, or you're looking to taste something that you don't know where to find it. They will definitely help you. All right. So I just wanted to briefly go over the payment plans for anyone that's looking to register now for the tour. When you register online, you'll have 2 options. So we have automatic payments or manual payments. And manual payments just means basically that you can make your payments manually through your My Account online with a credit card. The automatic payments are where you would set up the payments on either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly schedule, and that would be connected directly with your checking account. So I'm sure there's other people, you pay, like for example, I pay my electric bill like that. It's already kind of hooked up, and it's an automatic payment. So it makes it very easy. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think about it. And there are many benefits of auto pay, because we don't have to pay those credit card companies those fees. So we offer a discount. We offer a $50 discount for anyone that signs up for auto pay. So that's a great advantage. Another one is that the final payment isn't due until 45 days prior to departure. Whereas if you were kind of stuck with the manual payments that you just go on and make a payment with a credit card, that final payment deadline is much earlier. It's about 100 days prior to departure. So it does make a big difference. And then just easy. You don't have to ever worry about forgetting to make a payment. So But we do have both options, and whichever is most convenient to you is great with us. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of kind of a promotion that we have going on right now, which we're calling our worry-free guarantee. So we, for any participants who registered for the tour in 2021, you have until December 1st to cancel if you wish and receive a full refund back. So we really just wanted to kind of, we understand that things are just are up in the air. There's a lot of unknowns, and that can be a little bit nerve-wracking when you're thinking about plans for the future. This way we wanted to kind of take that worry out of the equation and just give you a chance to have lots of time to make that decision. And hopefully, we'll have more information by then. We had a really great breakthrough today, for example, where the US is going to start allowing Europeans to come back into our country, which is wonderful. So I think we're going to start getting more and more, hopefully, positive and good news about travel for the future. So just wanted to make sure everyone is fully aware of that worry-free guarantee. All right, so now I felt like it was really important to kind of go over some details about our new protection plans, because I know that this is really important for everyone to kind of know where they would stand in the event of cancellation. So the basic protection plan is included the moment you register for the tour. That has wonderful health and liability coverage overseas, which you'll see. However, the cancellation coverage is not as generous as with the Ultimate or Ultimate Plus plans. So that is the really big distinction between the basic, which is included, and the Ultimate and Ultimate Plus, which are at an additional cost. So here you can see the information about the plans. And of course, I know this is a lot of information. It's available on our website as well if you wanted to kind of take the time to read through, but I will kind of go over some of the big important differences so you have a sense of the options available to you. As I mentioned, the basic plan is included. There's no additional cost. The Ultimate plan is $30 per day of the tour, and the Ultimate Plus plan is $45 per day of the tour. So, and of course, the Ultimate Plus is the best plan, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Okay, so here is what is covered overseas with the plans. As you can see here, the basic still has really good health coverage. It's covered up to $15,000 with a $200 deductible. It does cover up to $250 towards the cost of a one-way economy ticket. So if you needed to go back home early, or for example, if a parent needed to fly over to Europe to be with a child, you'd still have $250 towards the cost of that ticket. And then we still have that quarantine coverage, which I was talking about a little bit earlier, under travel delay protection. So, and we consider, COVID quarantining a delay because it would be delayed technically. So, so that's what that $150 per day of traveling expenses refers to. So that could be for any other reason as well. It doesn't have to be just quarantine coverage. So say you, got sick or needed to go see a doctor and you couldn't fly home on the scheduled flight, then this would kick in as well. So that's covered for all levels of protection. You can see with the Ultimate and the Ultimate Plus, there's much more health coverage. So you're covered up to $50,000 with no deductible. And we will cover up to $1,500 towards the cost of a flight if someone needed to fly over to be with a minor or their child. And vice versa, if you needed to get home early for any reason, we'd cover up to $1,500 towards the cost of a flight to get back. So that's really great coverage. There's also baggage delay coverage, which is not included with the basic. So as you can see, the coverage is much better with the Ultimate and the Ultimate Plus. And now the refund policy. And I usually don't go into such detail with this, but I feel like this year it's really important. I just want everyone to understand what the options are and to know, to know that you have three options and to kind of give you some time to think about, if you'd like to upgrade. You do need to decide if you would like to upgrade by 130 days prior to departure. So that's just something to keep in mind. So you still have time, of course, but just to kind of go over some of the details and make sure you understand. Of course, I'll be happy to answer questions. I know a lot of information here, and of course, it's available on our website too. But you can see with the basic, that is what you see here on the screen. So basically 29 days or less prior to departure, there would be no refund, even if it was a medical cancellation. So that is really important to know. And then you can see the levels of, if you were to cancel at what date, what the refund would be. So that is the payment, that is the cancellation policy for basic, regardless of the reason for cancellation. With the Ultimate and the Ultimate Plus, we do offer what we call CFAR, or cancel for any reason. So it doesn't have to be a, quote unquote covered reason. It could be any reason. With the Ultimate Plus, you can cancel up to 4 days prior to departure and get a full refund in cash, less the cost of the protection plan, of course. That is a really great option because you just have that peace of mind. You know that your investment is really protected. With the Ultimate, which is kind of the middle version, you can see here it's the amount of the refund if you were to cancel for any reason depends upon when you decided to cancel and when we received that cancellation notice. So it does include partial voucher, whereas the Ultimate Plus is pure cash. So that's kind of a big difference between those two plans as well. One thing I did want to make sure that you're aware of is if it was a medical cancellation, or if someone in your immediate family has a medical emergency, then up to any date before departure, doesn't have to, there's no that 4-day window disappears with the Ultimate and Ultimate Plus. You could cancel, if you're getting to the airport and something happens with your family and you need to cancel, you would still get a full cash refund with both of those plans. Whereas with the basic, you would not get any refund. So that's a pretty big distinction. I just wanted to make sure it was clear. So those are kind of the big differences. And I know it's a lot of information, but I do feel it's important for everyone to know what options we have and that you can really feel very protected, especially with the Ultimate Plus, when you have great protection. So we are encouraging everyone to upgrade, especially this year, just because things are so, so unknown, and we know that. So, and we developed this whole new plan with the pandemic in mind. So hopefully just giving everyone that option to feel like they've protected their investment. Okay, so I know that's insurance is not the fun stuff, but getting back to more exciting things, this trip is going to be just absolutely wonderful. And I think it will be such a great way to kind of get back into traveling, but also into, just sharing musical, cultural experiences. I think everyone is really craving that now. I know I am for sure. And so we're really looking forward to making this just a fantastic experience and to making it something that you'll, as Jonathan mentioned, you'll never forget the rest of your life. So if you haven't registered already, I know Sarah has sent out the registration links. So for both tours, for the orchestra tour and for the shadow tour. And you can simply click on that link and it will take you to the registration page. It takes about less than 10 minutes to register. We just need your information, and a deposit of $200 is due at registration. And then once you kind of register, you'll have your own online account where you can make payments. You can, once the hotel and the flight and the venues are all confirmed, all of that will be updated on the on your online account. So it's really fun to kind of follow along and see what's happening. And then you can keep track of payments. I just wanted to mention again that, you know, with the auto pay, you would have until May 11th as opposed to March 1st, if you stuck with the kind of standard payment schedule. So just to show you that it does give you a lot more time, which is great. And if you do, of course, I'll be happy to answer questions tonight, but if you do have any questions after this presentation, we have a traveler support team that's there to answer your questions at accounts@encoretours.com or live on chat at our website as well. So we're always happy to help in any way that we can and make you feel really excited and secure about traveling. So I thank you for I hope that was helpful, and especially with the insurance information. I know it's a lot of information to digest, but hopefully helpful as well in making your decision. So let me see here. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sabrina, there was a question about vaccines for kids under 12. Is there any policy on that?
Right now, there isn't. No, so that's a great point. So in Italy, any child under 12, obviously, they can't have the vaccine. So they are obviously exempt from, you know, they can go into shops and museums and everything with a mask, of course, but just because it's not possible for them to be vaccinated right now, they are not under the same restrictions. That's a great question, but how that will change over the next 6 to 9 months will be interesting. I'm not sure what those regulations will look like, and that's something that we constantly monitor. But great question.
I also see a question about kids joining us for the shadow tour, and I can just speak to my experience a little bit that our shadow tours has been a wonderful mix of different participants. We've had one year it was mostly parents, and then we had kind of multi-generational families. We had a sibling and a grandparent and parents together. And then the other year it was mostly moms and then some couples as well. So that was fun. The dynamics are really great. So yes, kids can come along. We do have an age cap, and Sarah, maybe you can also remind me of our age requirements for the shadow tour as well. But we have had many ages and different participants with the shadow tour, and it's really, again, a lot of fun. And you can look at the itinerary and choose to participate or not as you want. So Sabrina, another question is, if a child were to test positive for COVID just before, I'm assuming for COVID, just before the return trip back home, how would that work? What might happen there?
Sure, that's a great question. Yeah. So what would happen is that student would need to quarantine in their hotel room. So if they, if say there was, one night left of the trip or something like that, we would move their roommates to a different room. And that student would need to quarantine alone in the room. And we would provide either chaperone or an ACIS or Encore staff member would kind of, be there to check in on them, make sure that they were okay. And if they needed to see a doctor, arrange that, of course. And then if the rest of the group was scheduled to fly home and that student couldn't fly, we would assist with, again, that quarantine coverage would kick in. So we would just keep that student in that hotel for the 10-day quarantine that they would need to do. And then if a parent wanted to fly over to be with that student, which we could, of course, would encourage, actually, because obviously that'd be kind of scary to be there alone. Then if we would assist with getting that flight, and then once the student had completed the quarantine and got the negative test, then we would assist in rescheduling the return flights. So we will have that. We had a few groups travel this summer, and we were super prepared for that to happen, because we were, to be honest, expecting at least one person that to happen to. We were lucky that it didn't, amazingly, but we had all of our procedures in place. So the moment that happened, we were going to be on top of it and make sure that went as smoothly as it possibly could, because obviously it's not a great, not an ideal situation, but we were really prepared to handle that in the event that did happen. So hopefully that answers the question.
I just wanted to bring up a couple of, a couple of pointers that we get questions on every time we have a, hold on a minute. Yeah, we have the tour. First of all, typically we would not have spent this time on all the insurance, but we know everyone that's on the top of everyone's mind. So I encourage everyone to watch the video that I sent out with the newsletter, because it will actually show you the fun part of, where we're going, our sites we're visiting. We recorded that in October of 2020 with Aspen and Sabrina. One thing that wasn't mentioned that's very popular with our families is Encore will work with you to book alternate returns, because a lot of our families will want to meet up in Italy with their child, go to the last concert, and then they may extend their family vacation in Europe. So be sure, if that's something you want to consider, Encore will work with you on an alternate return. And also they offer no airfare pricing on the tour, and then you're responsible for booking your child's airfare. I know we have a lot of young people in our concert orchestra this year, and you are allowed to go on the trip. However, if your child is under 12, you as a parent, one of the parents or guardians must sign up to be a chaperone. You can't sign up for the shadow tour. You have to actually be on the performance tour and be a chaperone. So that's just very important, and that's a strong rule we follow. Also, if your child is hesitant about joining up because they don't know who they want to room with, please know that we've never had roommate issues. We always find someone that's compatible with your child, so please don't worry about that.
Yeah, and Sarah, I'm going to interject just to say, Sarah has an amazing gift at pairing roommates. She bats 1,000 on that. It's just incredible how she pairs up kids who may be hesitant and don't want to come forward and say, like, I don't know who I'm going to room with or anything. She's got it all covered, and that has worked out really well. And I've seen that not only for my daughter's first tour, but also just in watching the shadow tour and seeing how all the kids get along. And it's really well choreographed. I also, Sarah, wanted to follow up on the, or Sabrina may want to interject too. If you take your own airfare or take your own flight, there are some coordination issues about getting you to the hotel as well, that Encore can't necessarily get you from the airport to the hotel on the bus that picks everybody else up. Is that right?
Yes. So if this is our rule, not Encore. So if you do fly your child over, it is your responsibility to find us. And each year we do have parents that elect that option, and there's never been a problem. But we can't be responsible for tracking your child down if they miss their connection, or if there's some delay. They will need, basically what I tell parents is, if they're arriving after us, that they just need to go to the hotel to meet us that first day. But yes, that is true. So that's something to be aware of. And we have another, I think this is another question for Sabrina.
Yeah, I just saw that question. Thank you. Yes. So the question is, if someone has symptoms of COVID while on tour, how do you handle it? Do you have COVID tests with you? Can you get the kids to a doctor? It's a great question. So yes, if someone starts to have symptoms, we would get them tested right away immediately, and we would get them, we won't have tests with us because it needs to be documented with a doctor or medical professionals. So, but that being said, as I was mentioning, our behind the scenes staff are incredible, and that will happen within, you know, minutes, hours. I mean, it will be really quick, because especially if someone is symptomatic, we want to make sure we know if it's, you know, what it is. And that person will need to quarantine until we get that result, just in case, of course. So yeah, so we will be completely, very prepared for that if that does happen. But we won't be having kind of taking tests with us, because it needs to be done by a medical professional and documented. So yeah, that's kind of the protocol we would take. And if it's negative, then obviously the person could continue on the trip. And if it's positive, then they would need to quarantine. So no matter where you are in the trip. So that is important to know.
Sabrina, I think you have there's another question. I think that's for you.
Sorry, I was muted. That's a great question. So is the COVID test in Italy included in the price, or does one pay out of pocket? So we will take care of that. The COVID test in Italy that we have to get the whole group done. We're going to coordinate that, and the price we'll take care of it. You do need to get tested before you depart from the US, and that's something that you would need to take care of on your own, just because it's impossible to coordinate that with everyone before you leave. So just for logistical reasons, you would need to take care of that on your own and get that negative test. But to return home, we want to make that as easy and smooth as possible, so we'll take care of it, including the cost.
I do want to tell everyone also, when we went to Germany in, I don't know, I think it was 2016, we did end up in the emergency room one night with a young lady. Espen went with us, our tour guide, Encore's tour guide, and myself and the young lady, and everything was handled. I mean, I was very impressed on everything Espen did to facilitate the trip over there. And it was not a true emergency, so no one worry. But if it had been, Encore, they just have everything in place. So okay, so I can answer this question about cellos. We rent cellos and basses overseas. They're not going to be as nice as what your child plays here, most likely in the United States. So sometimes kids will bring their own bow, and some have actually brought their own cello strings. But we will rent those. And in the past, we've had enough fundraisers to cover that cost. If not, we actually might have to pass it on to the cello parents, but I believe it was never anything significant for the trip, just a few $100s. But hopefully we'll be able to cover that with our fundraising. Are there any other questions?
Well, and certainly know that this isn't the only time to ask. You know, Sabrina is often available as our representatives from Encore, so we can get questions answered through them. And Sarah is so knowledgeable about and experienced on all of these tours, and I'm certainly happy to answer from my experience on the shadow tours if other questions come up. But again, I just want to stress just how amazing an experience it really is. My daughter refers to it still to this day, and she really did make some wonderful friendships. It also made her a much more adventurous eater, which was nice. And it just made her, gave her a love of travel, which she took into her later years in high school and college. It's just really wonderful to see her that open and excited about learning about other cultures and experiences.
Alex, there's a question in the chat. I think that's for you.
So we've had in the past for shadow tours, we've had grandparents and parents going, just one parent from a family going, as well as siblings. Usually they've been 12 and up. One year we did have some younger siblings go along, and they did not mind the late evenings because sometimes we did stay out late and at dinner and things like that. So it's up to you, what age and how extended you want to make that shadow tour.
Alex, we've also had an uncle on the shadow tour, and even parents of an alumni. We had a couple go with us, and they had no child on the trip, but they had gone on a previous shadow tour, and they said, "Oh, we want to keep going." So that also is a testament on how nice the shadow tour is.
It really is, and that was wonderful. And actually, that couple of the alumni, he's an architect, and so he was able to kind of take us on the first tour. We went through Vienna, looking at just all the different buildings, and he could tell us the history of them and the style, and it was really fascinating. It was a lot of fun. And again, we just had a great time with our tour leader was able to recommend different restaurants for us, and we had sometimes we would dine together, and other times we would kind of go off into smaller groups or go off on our own. And it was really just a fabulous way to take in the culture in the city. It's really a great experience. Yes, so there's a question about, can parents and family members attend the tour without participating in the shadow tour? There have been parents who fly on their own, make their own hotel arrangements, and then attend the concerts. And that's kind of on them to coordinate. But Sarah, do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Yes, so every year each tour, we do have families that shadow on their own. That's what I consider it, shadowing on your own. And they'll come to our concerts. We'll be sure all our tickets, by the way, are free and open to the general public, because once you start charging for ticket prices, a whole nother ball of game. Anyway, but what you have to know is, like, if your kids are signed up to go to a museum, no, you can't join that intimate part of the tour, because we'll have our set. Not only will we have our set schedule, but we will have prepaid tickets to get into the Vatican at a certain time. But of course, yes, we have parents all the time shadow.
And I'll add to that, that's also true of the shadow tour, that the kids are doing their own tour and their own activities. And sometimes those overlap. There were times where we would see each other in the same kind of, area or restaurants or kind of, tourist spots. But other times, or marketplaces, for instance, but other times the kids are on their own activities and doing their own things, and the shadow tour is doing something very separate. One time the kids the musicians went to the salt mine tour, which they loved, and we went to a winery, which I loved. So it was great.
I think there's a question in the Q&A for Sabrina.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes. So the deadline to register for the tour, technically speaking, is not. So we would love to know kind of if you're interested in the tour, because it will help us plan the earlier rather than later. So if you know you want to go, it would be wonderful if you could register, now over the next couple of weeks. However, the kind of final deadline to register and still, for everything for us to be able to book flights and all of that for you, would be the final payment deadline, which is March 1st. But you would have to pay kind of in full at that point. And it would be, that's kind of not an ideal scenario, because we really, for planning purposes, it's really important to kind of know the general group size. So if you could register this fall, that will be fantastic, because that will give us plenty of time to make plans in terms of venues and arrangements. As you can imagine, it's a lot to arrange. So,
and also I just want to interject, and Jonathan, I think will agree. If you wait till March to say you want to come, we may not be able to actually accommodate you because of the instrumentation. Jonathan will start selecting the music. You'll be surprised. We select the music in the fall based upon the kids who sign up, because Encore, what's interesting, Encore will send a audio recording we make of principal and concert orchestra to the venues in Italy with our proposed itinerary. And one time we didn't get denied, right, Jonathan? But we had to change something, or
It was a festival. Yeah, it was my first,
Yeah.
our first tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I
Yeah.
actually had to make adjustments.
so if you wait till March, and there's a chance that we may not be able to accommodate that child. But it's all dependent on the music. So that's why we really, and it's nice. It's just a $200 deposit, and then Jonathan can start planning. So we do ask anyone that's interested to do that with that $200 deposit. And there's another question in the chat about concert orchestra. So our policy is a child in concert orchestra may come on the tour. However, if they are not yet 12, a parent must be a chaperone. So that's the only criteria. And we welcome them, but we've learned from experience that we will need a parent there. And we've been traveling with Encore since 2008. And every time we've had an issue, they solve it immediately. We've never had any, complaints on any issue that came up and that wasn't solved promptly and correctly. So I think your kids are in good hands with Encore. And I encourage anyone to ask, you can ask me questions that you think of later. And if I don't know, I'll ask Encore, or as Sabrina said, you can contact their support. But we've been working with them since 2008, and I've been on every trip. So I could probably also help. And Jonathan's been on most of them.
They've been amazing.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, I just want to thank our panelists tonight. Thank you, Sarah and Jonathan and Sabrina, for being with us and giving us all this information and making us look forward to the summer and to travel and exciting things and gorgeous music and beautiful places. And it's nice to take time to think about that. And thank you to our families for joining us. And again, please feel free to ask questions as they come up. And we're here to answer your questions and look forward to traveling all together in next summer. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, Sabrina.
good night. Good night.